and 4 goals on April the 1st? It can't be true. Can it? The 4-1 victory over Crawley was indeed no joke as Nigel Clough's men switched formation and burst into life. The win, thanks to a brace from superstar Davies Keeler-Dunn and strikes from Ollie Clark and Alfie Kilgore, keep Mansfield well within the playoff hunt. But can they finally prove that it's not just a one-off ahead of a huge Easter weekend? Tonight on the Mansfield Matters podcast, we'll delve into why it's imperative for Clough to stick with the same formation and allow the creative juices to continue to flow. We'll discuss the influence of Stephen Quinn and preview a potentially make or break Easter weekend as the Stags head for Swindon and welcome the league's bottom side, Rochdale. Plus, as always, we welcome and encourage your comments, questions and opinions in the live feed comments on the show for the fans, by the fans. This is the Mansfield Matters Podcast, a proud member of the talkSPORT Fan Network. Hello, happy Monday. Welcome to the Mansfield Matters Podcast. It's always great to start the week with 3 points on board, isn't it? Always great to step into the week ahead knowing that your Saturday was filled with joy, goals, and more goals, and some exciting play as well. And what happened? We switched to a back four and allowed creativity through the midfield. It's only like we've been saying it the entire series on the Mansfield Matters podcast. Hopefully we can stick with it and hopefully we can get all the way to the end. Well, who have I got with me tonight to talk all things Mansfield Town? Well, I'm going to be honest, we've had a podcast crisis this week. We've had more absentees than Nigel Clough has got injured players in the treatment room. We've got Nick, it's his daughter's birthday, so happy birthday to Mini Nick. Hope you're having a fantastic day and that your dad's got you lots and lots of replica Stag shirts. Alan's off on holiday. Cam's decided to go and play football and ditch the podcast. Only turns up when he can host it. Shocking. Who else have I missed? Alan's on holiday. Cam's playing football. Nick's daughter's birthday. Nathan, he's disappeared into the Bermuda Triangle. And Clive, I don't know what's happened to Clive. I'm sure he'll pop up at some point. But I'm delighted to say that fresh from her appearance a few weeks ago when Cam was in the hot seat and at our special on the Capo Lounge for the Her Game 2 podcast, we've got Keely from Her Game 2. You are the saviour of the Mansfield Matters podcast this week. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
It's great. I mean, literally you are the saviour tonight, because otherwise it'd be me ranting and nobody wants that. So really do appreciate you joining us and going in. But what you're going to have to do tonight is you are now going to have to channel all of the different personalities of the Mansfield Matters podcast. So you're going to need to have a jovial laugh like Alan. The on-the-fence misery-ish of say it how it is of Clive. You're going to need the sarcasm and dry wit of Nick. And you're also going to need the forget what he's talking about attitude of Cam. Can you channel all those 4 for us tonight?
I'll give it my best shot.
Absolutely. And also as well, guys at home, if you're watching on the live feed, we need you. Get involved and have your say on your team in the chat. We can see the comments as well. So make sure you ask a question, a comment or opinion. Anything you want to say, get it in the comments. Me and Keely will talk about it over the next half an hour or so. It will be a short one tonight because I've got work at like 4 a.m. in the morning. So I really want to go to bed. So there we go. Right, Keely, let's start by talking about Saturday. We had a little chat before we started the show tonight. And if we're honest, it came a little bit out of the blue, didn't it?
It did, definitely. I think I forgot what to do when we scored. I was like looked at my daughter and I was like, oh my God, they've scored. What do I do?
It was that sort of thing, wasn't it, as well? Like, the ball went into the back of the net and you sort of looked round at everyone and there was that, you know when something's buffering on Netflix and it's just trying to catch up with what's on screen and the audio? It was like that.
Yeah, it was, definitely.
It was a crazy sort of situation to be in, but thank goodness we got that goal early doors, because I think it sort of lifted everybody's spirits.
It definitely did, and I think to obviously see sorry, not Oatsy, Ollie celebrating as well with the rest of the guys. So because I was right in front of, obviously, with the net where they scored, so it was nice to watch them celebrating and actually see some positivity.
Yeah, positivity is something which I think's been missing a little bit, because even sort of on last week's podcast, we were talking about whether it was make or break or not. And I actually think, looking at it, we spoke a lot about perceptions. Was it, 2 draws on the spin, 2 games without scoring a goal? Was it an unlucky spell, or was it just, we were unbeaten in 3 or whatever? And if you look at the form table now, only something like 2 defeats in the last 10 games. We're right up there. We're right in the mix.
We are. I mean, I keep looking at it. I always have been, to be fair. I've never sort of looked at it and thought we're not going to get there. Before the match, obviously, we were only 9 points behind 3rd place. So, I keep that, optimistic thought that it's still possible. I just don't want playoffs.
I don't think anybody does, but I do have to say, I think 3rd place is a little bit perhaps over optimistic. But you've done well there. You've channeled Alan, because I think that's exactly what he'd say.
Yeah, I do try to look at it like, we're 9 points behind 3rd. It's still possible, but, playoffs is probably more likely. But like you say, no one wants to be in playoffs, so they aim for like three 3rd spots. So yeah, fingers crossed.
And I know what Nigel Clough would be saying as well. He'd be saying exactly the same as what he said to me constantly at this time last year, and that is 1 game at a time. We take it 1 step at a time. We don't look at getting 6 points from the next 2 or getting 7 from the next 3. It's literally just what's next.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Fridays, I don't know, I'm a bit apprehensive about Friday, because Swindon's never sort of an easy run. But I mean, looking at their form just lately, they've not been doing too good. So fingers crossed, Saturday for us was the push in the right direction, and we can go on to win that one as well.
If we're being really completely honest about Saturday, there was only one thing which changed the course of Mansfield's season for that particular afternoon, and that was Nigel Clough making a tactical tweak.
Yeah, definitely. It was the right tweak, but yeah, hopefully he'll stick to doing the right.
I think we may have lost Keely for just a second. We might. Oh, there you go. There you go. You've made the classic thing. You're on your phone, doing it on your phone. Modern technology, and as soon as the phone rings, it dips down. But there we go. We've got you back. We can see you. We can hear you. There we go. We were just saying there about that tweaking formation, and we've been saying it for a long time here on the podcast, but we've got a midfield which is full of creative players. And you look at players like Davies Keeler-Dunn coming in January. Yeah, he's probably more of a front man, but realistically, as a midfielder where he's played maybe the last 3 or 4 games, that's where he's been really effective.
Craig, I've got a technical error. I can't hear you.
Oh dear, this may end well. Hopefully, Keely will come back in just a second, and we might be able to hear her.
I'm back.
There you go. Can you hear us now?
Yeah.
There we go. That's it. Sometimes you just need to log off and log on again. I blame all of Mansfield Matters podcast injury. So we'll ignore what just happened, and we'll carry on like nothing happened. We're talking about tactical tweaks and the midfield being creative. How refreshing is it to see those midfielders like Ollie Clark, almost Kieran Wallace to a degree as well, just be given that freedom, but brought on by Davies Keeler-Dunn?
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously the tactical tweak that he did on Saturday, I think it worked, and I think obviously having Akins up front with Oates and obviously DKD just behind him, I think it worked. Hopefully is going to keep at it, and it's what we needed. It was also nice to obviously see Quinny back with Clarkey and Wallace. To be fair, there was no one on that pitch on Saturday that I think had a bad game. They all really sort of put 110% in.
It's all about now having that braveness, I think, from Nigel Clough to stick with it and to try and stick with that formation, because we've got the players if we wanted to play that five at the back when everybody's fit, but we haven't got those players fit. We're talking your Callum Johnson, your Stephen McLaughlin's to play at wing back. What we have got though is a good enough side to play this 4-3-3 or 4, or just a flat back 4 and play creativity and fluid through midfield. Do you think Nigel Clough will stick with it there, or do you think his stubbornness will shine to the surface again?
Yeah, I think like we spoke about earlier, he's definitely stubborn, and he sort of never sticks to what you know is working. So it is going to be stubborn, and he'll change it again, and we'll just have to see what Friday brings.
Let us know in the comments what you think that will do for the season, whether or not Nigel Clough should stick or twist. Stick with the back 4 or twist back to his familiar 3 at the back, wing back formation. Let's have a delve into some of those comments from earlier on as well. Keep them coming in. We want any comments, questions or opinions on all things Mansfield Town tonight here on the Mansfield Matters podcast. Ashley says, very good win and much needed. Adam says, the lineup had balance across the squad for a change. Stags chat, what a game. We need to take the positives from the game and learn from the few mistakes and keep it going. We're still there fighting for that place. Of course, it wasn't perfect, Keeley, on Saturday. We did concede a goal, and there were moments where Crawley had little spells of possession, but for the most part, I think what we did learn from was having that killer instinct, because we've seen it so many times this season, haven't we, where we've got a 1 goal or a 2 goal lead and then just sat back, but Clough didn't put the brakes on.
Yeah, definitely. I did think, obviously, going into half time, are they going to come out? Are they going to be, second half? Are they going to come out fighting? Or is it going to be a case of what we've seen before, when other teams they've come out fighting, and obviously we're going to throw it all away and end up sort of losing it? But we didn't when we came out fighting, and they got one back, but I think we just sort of took our eye off the ball for 5 minutes, and that's when they had the opportunity, because looking at obviously the stats of it, we had 27 shots altogether. So looking at it, we obviously got the majority of them, but I think, like I say, we took our eye off the ball for 5 minutes and they got a goal, but we got there.
And Kellen Gordon was back for Crawley as well on his return to Mansfield. We'll talk about something he's done off the pitch in just a minute. He's done a really nice gesture to a young supporter. But on the pitch, it's one of those, isn't it? An ex-player comes back. Sometimes they'll have the game of their lives. But up against Stephen Quinn, they had some battles. And to be honest, I don't really think I can remember Gordon doing much in the second half. And he would have gone home a little bit frustrated, shall we say.
Yeah, I think the look on his face a few times when I seen him sort of running down outside at the pitch, he looked like he would just, didn't want to be there. And when he had that little tussle with Quinny, there was some sort of retaliation when Quinny went in for a challenge, and then he sort of retaliated back. Definitely.
I mean, you're a little bit closer to the pitch than what I am, judging by what you said earlier. You sit lower tier towards the north stand? Yeah,
on Saturday I was on the lower tier in G, so I was sort of quite at the front of the match.
So vocally, how loud is Stephen Quinn when you sort of pitch side? Could you hear much of the Stephen Quinn, Kellen Gordon banter going off?
Yeah, I think you could tell more from Quinny's face and Quinny's reactions. I wouldn't say he was sort of loud on Saturday, but the reactions of his face and sort of you could see that the little sort of redhead inside of him wanted to come out and play a bit more, but he had to be careful.
Trust me, that redhead miss thing is definitely a thing. Definitely is a thing. Adam in the comments says, post-final whistle, Kellen seemed more at home with the Stag squad players. Natural, really. I think when you come back, when you've spent such a long time at the club, you're bound to want to catch up with a few old faces and wish everybody the best and things like that. Interesting that there were a few boos going around. I don't think he did anything whilst he was at Stags to warrant those boos, really. I think realistically, he was a little bit maybe unlucky in the end to be on his way.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the last few games that he played for us, he did well for us, but you can't fault the lad for obviously wanting to go elsewhere and get a game each week and whatever. So probably the boos was not called for, but...
It's interesting because I was saying to somebody that I sit with before the game when we sort of were looking at both the lineups, and we went, Kellen Gordon basically played every minute of every game pretty much since he signed it at Crawley. Yet if he was, which says he's fit enough to play, yet if he was here at Mansfield, he'd still be on the bench ahead of Lucas Akins at right back.
Yeah, definitely.
So I don't know whether it's a standards thing, whether there was something with Clough about the way he wanted to play. It's one of those things. It is football. Let's talk about Stephen Quinn a little bit more because, of course, he was back on Saturday, and last season there was definitely a phrase, and to be fair, the majority of the time the stats did back it up. No Quinn, no win. And I think it showed again a little bit on Saturday. But what concerns me more is that surely he's not got one more season in him, has he?
Hopefully not. I'd like to see him push for another couple of seasons. I think, looking at obviously what he gives to the game and the amount, he never stops, does he really? Come on, let's face it, for a guy of just turned 37 on Saturday. If I was a supporter just coming into it and didn't know how old he was, then I'd think he was probably a bit younger than that. So yeah, I'd love to see him for another couple of seasons at least.
It's an interesting one because I know he's sort of got eyes on retirement, and when he does retire as well, Nigel Clough has already been very open in various forums and said he won't go on the coaching staff. He's got businesses that he'll concentrate on outside of football. So once he's hung up his boots, that's it. But the worry is he's such a character. He brings such energy, like you say, to that dressing room, to the pitch, that it's going to be so difficult to replace him. It's almost like thinking back, a few years ago when Adam Murray made that transition from, playing and being captain to having to be manager and not play. It leaves a massive void, and it's the worst part of the pitch to leave a void as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think for a character like Quinny, you can tell his art and he wears it on his sleeve. His passion's there, and I think he gets the lads going. I think Perch is another one that obviously I've heard, that he gets behind the lads and in the dressing room and stuff like that. He's the one that sort of motivate them and things like that. So it will be a massive loss if he does decide to retire soon, which, if that's going to be the case, then we need someone to obviously step up to Quinny's sort of shoes. And I think we've sort of got that in Kilgore. But obviously the experience might sort of not go in his favour, with being sort of still young. And you sort of look up to a more mature player.
It's an interesting one, that, because I think you're absolutely right. Kilgore's definitely got the similar characteristics. And I think, I don't think it's unfair to say that he's probably not 100% fit yet. I think when he's fully fit and sort of next season, I think he could be a real leader for us in that back line. But again, there's so many players who you want to sort of step up and look at that. And I felt Ollie Clark on Saturday, again, he's one of those players. If Nathan was on here, we'd be having a right slanging match now, because Nathan famously wanted to push Ollie Clark off a cliff at some point on this podcast. Nathan's views, not ours. And we've never let him forget it since. But again, he brings so much energy to the midfield, and almost, there is a reason why he is the Mansfield captain.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said earlier, when they scored that goal, sort of he ran up to the Crawley fans and sort of celebrated and sort of like turned to his own fans and celebrated, and there's that passion there as well. And I think him and Quinny both, when they are together, the passion sort of comes out even more from both of them. And you see that in the team.
That's why I'd sort of love to see if Nigel Clough could persuade Quinn to stay on, maybe as a player coach. I'd love to try and see him just sort of cajole him into becoming that coaching role. Do you watch Ted Lasso?
I don't know, but I have seen like.
I can't. You need to watch it, and secondly, for those who do, you will understand this reference. There's a character in there called Roy Kent, who is essentially a Roy Keane type figure, passionate, mean, menacing, that sort of thing. He retires at the end of the first series, and in the second series, Ted Lasso, the manager, manipulates him a little bit to get him to become onto the coaching staff and reinvent that energy back into the playing squad. And that's exactly what we sort of need with Stephen Quinn. If he's not going to play, you still want to keep him around a little bit because he's too invaluable, isn't he? It's like that last little piece of the jigsaw. It'd probably work as a picture without that piece, but it's not fully complete without him there.
Yeah, definitely. I totally get that. And it'd be nice if, like you say, if Nigel could sort of get him either to stay a bit longer or to even persuade him into the coaching side of it. Because we definitely need someone like that. And I think in games that I've seen him play, he's always trying to get either fans going or, he's always putting his heart and soul into things. Everyone they've got the sort of opinions on the sending off. I believe that he got sent off because, he was frustrated. He was passionate about, he was passionate about what he was doing. He felt that he was fouled. And so, again, the little redheads.
It's true.
and that's because he's passionate about it. And, I think I'd be the same if it were me. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you know what? It's almost like sadistic to say it, but actually, it does the squad and does Stephen Quinn good to go through somebody and have a 3-game ban, because when he comes back, he's got that thing of the red mist is cleared, the ginger mist is cleared. Let's be honest what it is. It's the ginger mist. It's a different breed. The ginger mist is cleared, and he has that thing in his heart of, I've got to put this right now. And all of a sudden, that stagnant performance level, which you get when you're playing week in, week out, rises from 80% to 180%, and it lifts everybody around you.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree.
Chris has been in touch in the comments talking about Ollie Clarke and leadership. He says, up until recently, Ollie didn't really feel like a captain, in my opinion, but his performances over recent weeks and months have shown that he does have strong leadership qualities, leading by example and giving absolutely everything for the team, even playing whilst not fully fit. And I'll just add on to the end of that as well. He makes an excellent cover centre half too.
Yeah, it does, definitely. I agree with that comment. He's not been fully fit, and he's admitted that. He's been open and honest and said that he's not been 100%, but he's still tried to get the lads going. He's still tried to, but he's definitely missed Quinny as well, as much as everyone else has.
Yeah, sometimes you just need that feed, don't you? We speak about it a lot on the podcast about certain partnerships working, some certain partnerships not working, and things like that. We think about in the conference days when you had Green and Reed playing off each other really well, even that centre-half pairing of Dempster and Gahegan or Dempster and Jones. Sometimes it just fits and other times it doesn't. And maybe that's what Ollie Clarke needs. He needs those players around him to be able to lift his game. And I think he's really, really blossomed into a good player. And again, there's another reason why he spent so long at one club prior. I think we forget a lot of the time that Ollie Clark is also one of those players that's towards the back end of his career. He's probably got another 3-4 seasons left before he maybe has to drop down in level. But it's only his second club.
Yeah, definitely. It's it just shows obviously what.
There's another phone call come through, I think.
Like you say, this is his second club. So yeah, it's proving to be a good thing with him. I think it'll bring him out even more the more he's sort of being captain.
Let's certainly hope so. We're going to take a very quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk all things fixtures up and coming for the next few weeks or so. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on the Mansfield Matters podcast, a proud member of the talkSPORT Fan Network. Welcome back to the show for the fans, by the fans. This is the Mansfield Matters podcast. Keely's still with me, saving the day. Thanks so much for joining us. Can you still hear us? Are you still with us, or are the tech bugs won?
No, I'm still here. It's my daughter. She keeps ringing me.
That's it. Maybe she's seen you on Facebook and she wanted to say hello. There you go. We'll let you in just a minute. We're going to keep you for another 5 minutes, and then we're going to end things. Like I said at the start of the show, it'll be a little bit shorter tonight. I hate half term when you work in marketing and you work on a sports camps-based thing all over the country. 4 a.m. alarm call tomorrow. I'm not looking forward to it, which is also why we had to do the podcast tonight, because I'm not available any of the nights. Hotel life for me until Friday. So there we go. Right, anyway, that's enough about my ridiculous work personal life. Shall we turn our attention back to Stags? Yes is the answer to that. Keep your comments, questions and opinions coming in. We were looking on last week's podcast about breaking the next load of fixtures down. Obviously, Nigel Clough always looks at one game at a time. We've sort of looked at it in two, and what we've got coming up, of course, is the Easter weekend. And I don't think it'd be over dramatic to say that it is. Well, I think make or break's probably a little bit strong, but I think this could have a real big swing and big say on how we're going to finish the season. Swindon, of course, first on Friday. Aside, statistically, we don't really do well against when we go to their place, but also aside that, have got their own playoff ambitions after last season. They're 10 points behind Mansfield as it stands, so they need a real big run of form towards the end of the campaign. So for them, they'll be feeling pressure to get a victory on Friday, and it's going to be a very, very tough game.
It will be, yeah, definitely. I think Swindon's always a tough game as it is, but sort of looking at their form at the minute, they've not been doing too great, I don't think. So on paper, the next two games should be relatively easy, but as we know, Mansfield never do it easy, do they?
No, what was it Keith Cole used to say? The easy way, the hard way, and the Mansfield town way is very much true. And then, of course, on Monday, back at home, obviously we'll be buoyed by that win last weekend, hopefully with at least a point from Swindon, which I think would be a good result, actually, a point to come away from there. But bottom of the table, Rochdale, they've recently got rid of one manager, looking to appoint, if they haven't done so already, another, desperate to try and get away from the drop. They'll want to really come out and give it a good go. And arguably for me, they're the most difficult games.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think the next two are going to be hard. Like I say, on paper, they look easy, but I think if we come out like we did on Saturday, and we play how we did on Saturday, I think that we've got a good chance of potentially getting 6 points. out of both games. But if we sort of play how we have been against Grimsby, then it might be that we get a point.
Is that going to be the difference, the way we line up, the way we play?
I think so, definitely. I think if you look at it, obviously, like Saturday, like we've said, that we had the little tweak in the system and it worked. Or is Cloughy going to be stubborn and, like you say, go back to what he thinks works instead of what we know works? Because obviously Saturday works.
And I think you look at the players that he's sort of got as well. You know, he's got some which are potentially bubbling to come back. It'd be interesting to see an update from him tomorrow. That's usually when press is. So it'd be interesting to see an injury update tomorrow on those players. But even if we go out and we start with the same 11, as long as we start with that back four, I think we'll be absolutely fine. I think we'll give them a real go, because you look at Rhys Oates, he's obviously hungry to try and replicate what he did last season, make an impact. You've got Lucas Akins, who's desperate to try and get himself a goal, bless him. To be fair to him as well, a little side note, he did everything but score, didn't he, on Saturday? I felt so sorry for him.
Yeah, I did. I think, to be honest, he was probably, for me, he was probably man at match for me. Because, he did some great assists. Obviously, him and Oatesy, I think the partnership works. And obviously having DKD just at the back of him, obviously that works as well. So yeah, I think that partnership works. And he did everything on Saturday, bless him, but score.
Yeah, I'm praying for him to get a goal. I really hope that he gets one towards the end of the campaign, because I think it was harder to miss at some point when the keeper got in the way of it. But yeah, it's one of those nice things to have. But having that formation, having that back four, it allows Elliot Hewitt to roam. It allows Alfie Kilgore to just head it and kick it, which he does well. We'll have Riley Harbottle back. We should have, with the concussion protocols, hopefully he's okay to come back into it as well. Hopefully it will be a little bit more creative, a little bit more on the ground, and DKD can work his magic as well. It's that time of the show then where I ask you for your prediction for Friday's game. Are you going to get some points on the board this weekend? Swindon away, a ground where we notoriously don't tend to do very well, but we're on the back of victory and looking to keep the momentum going. What's your prediction?
I'm going to go for a 2-0 to us. And I think it's going to be relatively early. I think I'm going to go for 12 minutes.
Oh, good shout. Nice early goal to get us going. I'm going to be a little bit more conservative, but I'm not going to be pessimist. I'm not going to say defeat for once. I'm going to say a 1-1 draw, which I will be highly delighted with. I also agree on the early goal. I think we're actually going to get one within the opening 10 minutes. I think it's going to come 8 minutes in. I think it might well be them, and I think it'll be one of those games where we scrap and a little bit like Stockport, get one late on in the game. Let us know your predictions. The link that you need to play along with podcast predictions is in the description. As always, you must put your prediction in no later than 1 hour and 1 minute before kickoff on Friday afternoon. We'll also have the Easter Monday predictions on for you later in the week as well. And we'll share everybody else's podcast predictions when they answer my messages and when they decide to surface again. Honestly, I think if Mansfield Matters missing podcast panellists and Nigel Clough's injured players combined, you wouldn't need a treatment room. I think you need a treatment mansion. Shocking stuff. Adam in the comments says, I think Swindon will be on the end of a 5-goal rampage, 5-goal revenge, hopefully. I think he's taken the optimism pill a little bit too far, don't you?
Maybe just a little.
Maybe just a little. We'll wait and see. That's almost all we've got time for tonight. Keely, thanks so much for joining us. Before I let you go and get back to what it is you're doing, let's say hello to Clive, who's just popped up. Hello.
Hello. Do you want to know why I'm late? Do you want the truth?
You were asleep?
Correct.
Absolute quality. Well, we might as well get your prediction whilst you're here for the Swindon game. What are you going to go for?
Stags win 3-1, 20th minute.
And that's all we've got time for.
I mean, look at the clock as well.
4:10.
Yeah, it's a funny old clock.
Yeah, I mean, what on earth's going on there?
I don't know. It's got a mind of its own. It's
mean,
radio controlled, but I think it's been controlled by the Russians.
No comment. I mean, thank God Keeley was here to rescue us. Keeley, I was going to, before I saw Clive pop up in the comments, stay there, Clive, we'll keep you around for a couple of minutes or so. I was just going to sort of say, obviously, the Sutton United game a few weeks ago was the rearranged Her Game 2 dedicated fixture. Talk us through it from your perspective, because it was, from what I could see, a fantastic afternoon. So many young girls getting involved and sort of becoming more aware of Mansfield Town. It's great to see. Talk us through the afternoon from your perspective.
It was all quite a blur. To be fair, I think I was on a buzz from like the minute I woke up to about 3 days after. To be fair, it was amazing. Just obviously getting to the ground and talking to young girls and boys, talking to fans. We had pictures with obviously the players got involved. I want to say a massive thank you to Riley Arbottle, bless him, for getting a signed shirt for my daughter, because she's not been very well. And she's a massive fan of Riley, and he got a signed shirt for her and everything. So that made her day. So we had tears. There was a few male supporters that we obviously spoke to, and one in particular, he came up to us and was just he just burst out crying, bless him. He was so sort of grateful to us for promoting women's like football and sport, and he couldn't get his words out, bless him. And at first we thought, oh, is it like tears of he's mad, or is he's angry with us for doing it? But yeah, he was absolutely over the moon, bless him. Yeah, it was just really good just to see like the lads getting involved when they was taking the training tops off and giving them to boys and girls all around the stadium. Yeah, it was lovely. It was lovely to see.
And fingers crossed as well. I've noticed that a few clubs have sort of over the last 2-3 weeks or so have been unveiling their club representative for Her Game 2 in terms of player representation. And we can't say too much, but there is things bubbling away in the background, aren't there?
Yeah, Emma's sorting a few things. Yeah, she's got a few things in pipeline. So obviously, without giving things away, there is a few things. Hopefully, that fingers crossed, we can start potentially unveiling soon, and that's gonna help us and boost it a bit more. And yeah, hopefully, there's a lot more to come.
Fantastic. Well, as always, thanks so much for your time, and congratulations too on a hat-trick appearance. I don't know if we mentioned that at the top of the show or not. 3 times in a row. And you know what? You're becoming more punctual than everyone else in the Mansfield Matters podcast. I'll see you again at the same time next week, yeah?
Right, yeah.
Clive, before we let you go back to sleep, dozing away in your armchair, very brief highlights of your thoughts from Saturday, your thoughts ahead of the Easter weekend as well. I'll give you, 30 seconds? Go.
I enjoyed the game on Saturday. I thought it was a good, entertaining game, especially for anybody who hadn't got an emotional input. But the early goals, the goals scored at the right time, made the game quite comfortable for us. And we played better than we've been playing for weeks. In terms of the weekend ahead of us, it's going to be tough. We never win at Swindon. That's why I think we are going to do this time. And Rochdale will be fighting for their lives on Monday.
There we go. A podcast condensed into 30 seconds. What more do you want? Clive, thanks for popping on, because you really didn't need to. You could have just sent us a message afterwards and gone, I fell asleep. And Keely, again, my thanks to you for stepping in and being an absolute superstar on the show tonight and keeping it ticking over. Really do appreciate your time and effort. Hopefully we'll see you again before the season is out. We'll be back hopefully potentially during the Easter weekend, but maybe not, depending on what else is happening. But we'll definitely be back after Easter Monday as we look ahead to potentially huge games against Grimsby and Newport, as well as the final 6 games of the season creep upon us. For now, though, that's all we've got time for on the show. For the fans, by the fans, this is the Mansfield Matters podcast. Good night, Clive. Go back to sleep. Well, there you have it. Another podcast ticked off, done and dusted. The full-time whistle is blown. My thanks, as always, to the Mansfield Matters podcast panel and to you guys for watching and indeed listening at home. We'll be back after the Easter weekend as we look ahead to the final running of fixtures. Will the Stags still be in with a shout of the playoffs? Will it be all over? Or will it be on the fence as always? There's only one way to find out, and that is by joining the Mansfield Matters podcast. Make sure you follow us on all things social media at MTFC Matters for details of when we're next going to be live. And don't forget to get involved in podcast predictions. The link that you need is in the description. For now, though, we're off just to make sure and watch the game once again to make sure that it wasn't an April Fool's joke and that the Stags really did score 4 goals at home and put 3 points on the board. What's that? They did. Happy days indeed. Until next time, we'll see you later on the show for the fans, by the fans. This is the Mansfield Matters podcast. Good night.